All right.
Two.
You ready? We're ready.
Cheers.
Cheers.
1. Slancha. Hello and welcome back from the Matrix. I'm JD.
I'm Matt.
And that's James.
Hi.
Occasionally interjecting once again.
Okay, and we're going into Turtle Rock.
We are here back with Zelda Link to the Past. We are at the Turtle Rock. And that's what we're gonna do today because, why not? It's the last dungeon. We got one dungeon left until Ganon.
We got.
So we're gonna be. Oh, we gotta do
You remember what voice we do? It's probably the same as Dr. Light.
Why, guy? Do you possess the medicine of magic? If not, I recommend going against any further.
Wait, what?
Why, guy? Do you possess the medicine of magic? If not, I recommend going. I recommend against going any further.
Wait, what did he say?
He said, why, guy? Do you possess the medicine of magic? If not, I recommend against going any further.
Do we have that medicine?
The medicine of magic?
Oh, fuck. That's why
What
we
is
were
the
supposed to
medicine
get
of-
it earlier.
What is the medicine of magic? I don't know what that is.
The green one that we were like, oh no, the fairy's better.
No, the medicine of magic and the green potion are two different things.
Oh, they are? What the fuck are we missing then?
I have a cat, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
We can, I can't show you at all right now because
I don't
I'm
care. I mean,
a little, tied, I'm a little
Make
indisposed
sure you're
right
not
now.
talking to yourself.
No, he is. The cat's not in the room.
No, the cat is real, I swear.
Cats are the perfect animal just to fucking
Why do
stare
people
at.
keep telling me I'm crazy? I have a cat, okay? He's not a hallucination.
His name is Garfield, and he loves lasagna.
No, you idiot. Garfield was my old cat.
JD, it was right. It was the green potion.
You bought it Really? They just want us to get the green potion?
I get.
Alright, use up one of your fairies.
Well,
Go
yeah,
to the-
but I have to backtrack all the way back there.
We're just gonna end this recording.
Okay, where should we go?
Which is great. That's great. That's why watching a Let's Play is so nice instead of playing the game. Because all that shitty little frustrating shit, you don't gotta deal with that. We gotta deal with that. You just get to sit back and enjoy.
Actually, I'm not going to do this part
Isn't
yet.
that so nice? That's why you should watch Let's Plays more. You should watch our Let's Plays more.
Yeah, viewer.
Imagine playing this on the original console without like. You
Watch our Let's Plays.
Figure anything out.
Well, when me and my cousin used to play the original Zelda, we literally had printed out maps of the
Yep.
game.
Yep.
That was always fun because it was literally looking at a map for the thing.
I always liked doing that too. I used to like when, I don't remember which game I used to do this for, but like actually writing down the side quests and like writing down what they asked for and
Yeah.
shit, and then going back and then looking through it and being like, oh, I just found this and now I can do this, you know, that was always fun.
Well, it's just I got to
You don't do that. You don't do that with games anymore because it writes it all down for you and it like
Yeah, that's
keeps
true.
track of where to go and stuff like that, which is good. It's nice, but it's a different experience for sure.
I remember writing down the cheat codes and like playing GTA. That's the closest I got.
Hold on a
I
second.
wrote down all the song inputs for Ocarina of Time before I realized they literally saved it for you in the menu.
Viewer, this is a continuation of a discussion that James and I were having. But here's the thing. A primarily market-based society is such an idiotic backwards thing, and let me explain why. Because in a market-based society, the idea of a monopoly is an absolutely horrible, terrible thing. Because a monopoly
You should be saying a free market
the majority.
society, not just a
It controls
market.
the majority of the market, and it deliberately will produce less of a product so that it can produce it at a higher price than what an efficient outcome would cause. But the thing with that is, right, in most circumstances, it actually is most efficient to have like a small number of producers, like with one large producer or a small number of producers producing a majority of the output of an economic thing. Problem with that is only in a market-based society are the incentives aligned in such a way for a single producer, a single large producer. So imagine like a giant factory that produces one economic good. Only in a market-based society are the incentives aligned in such a way such that the outcome leads to that one large producer creating a lower amount of that good than what is efficient, right? It doesn't make sense to make most industries have a bunch of, because the base like idea of economics, or of like neoclassical economic theory, the basic idea is that if the price of something is high, then more producers will enter the market. Until it gets to a point where you have a bunch of like infinitesimally small producers. Like basically if you imagine each individual person who works in that field is their own producer, and they produce the economic good such that they're all competing with each other perfectly, and they're all producing as much of it as they can. But the thing is that's fucking stupid. It doesn't make sense to have everybody, like, if you think about like plastic bottles, right? Does it make more sense for there to be like 100 million people producing plastic bottles in their home to sell to everyone else? Or does it make more sense to have one massive factory that produces all the plastic bottles that you could ever need? Obviously, the second one is what makes hold on, I'm not done yet. Obviously, the second one is the one that makes the most sense, but only in a neoclassical economic market-based society is the first option the first option considered the efficient one. And that's fucking stupid, and that's why economics is fucking fake, and it's not real, and it's just a bunch of made-up fairy tales for the rich to justify why poor people should be allowed to exist.
Okay, so, not disagreeing, but there's a difference between product and service. So there could be a service of installation.
Yes, that is true.
There could be, I'm just saying, free market society, if we had a free market, which we don't now, free market would exist if we had actual regulations. What's the term?
Well, okay. The problem is, and this is exactly what I was getting at, in a free, quote-unquote, free market society, you have one of two outcomes. One is either you get, let's say you have a regulated free market society like you're talking about, right? The problem with that, where like it's impossible for there to be monopolies, right? Let's imagine that. The problem with that is you end up with such like a ass backwards inefficient way to produce most things. Like imagine a power plant, for example. Well, right?
Okay, I got a quick note.
In a regulated free market society, you get you instead of having one power plant that powers the whole city, you get a bunch of tiny power plants. Like, sure, technically the price would be lower in that case because of competition, but you're losing so many resources because you're not taking advantage of economies of scale.
Yes, you are, but you got to think of it as also terms as actual physical landmass. I mean, in our development right now as a society, in America specifically, yes, you need those resources. But if we didn't have such high population densities, that wouldn't be as necessary. Anyways, the problem is there's such a two-tier justice system with our actual justice in this country, the Justice Department, the actual law, that the regulations are basically, you know, it's give or take on what whoever is prosecuting wants to say what is right and wrong. I horribly stated that, but basically there's a two-tier
That's true.
system,
The prosecutors do have the power to decide basically what goes to trial and what doesn't, which is bullshit.
And so that's what goes on.
They basically, which basically gives them sort of like presidential power over justice, which is crazy.
The biggest problem in America right now, one of them is like the refusal to enforce the law, and that comes from both sides. You're only going to enforce the law basically that benefits you and your thoughts.
But it's not even that. It's not even that. It comes down to the way the laws are written as well. Because think about it, right?
Completely.
When a rich person commits a crime, like for example, my employer just today shorted me, like fucking $300 some on my. This actually happened to me. They shorted me like $300 some on my paycheck, right? The thing is, like, if I stole $300 from my employer,
you'd be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
I would be prosecuted for a criminal offense. But the thing is that because my employer, a rich person, has shorted me $300, it's not a criminal offense. It's a civil offense, and I can't call the cops about it. My only recourse is to hope that they'll remedy the situation, which thankfully it seems like they're going to do that. It seems like it's a genuine mistake, but even then, even if it is a genuine mistake, it's still like I need that money to survive. You can't just short me that money. But my only hope is that either they'll remedy the situation out of their own goodwill, or I have to sue them. Those are my only two options. Whereas if I walked out with $300 of merchandise the next, like tomorrow, if I did that, then they could call the cops and I would be in jail within a few hours. But I can't call the cops on my employer. And that's the thing. All of the offenses that rich people can possibly commit are all civil offenses. When a rich person commits an offense against a poor person, it's a civil issue. And it's up to the poor person to get a lawyer and pay everything out of pocket to hold the rich person accountable. But when a poor person commits an offense,
there's a big difference between
when a poor person commits an offense against a rich person, it's a criminal offense. And the rich people can just call the police and immediately that person will be in jail within a couple hours. And it's fucking crazy. And that comes down to just the way the law is written. There is literally a double standard in the justice system where the rich people have
the law is written by criminals. Welcome to America.
Yeah, well, it's written by people that want to get money.
The rich people have a completely different set of laws that apply to them that don't apply to poor people. Or I mean that the other way around.
It's a two-tier justice system, yes.
And not only that, but so many of the like minor infractions or even like pretty severe infractions that are enforced solely through fines are fines that
That too,
they're like they're like a static fine. So like speeding is, oh, it's $100 fine or whatever. But to a rich person, that's fucking nothing, right? So it's basically just a crime for poor people because it's a static fine. Or like, for example, when the writers union and the actors union were striking against the studios clipped all of their trees outside of their place, and it was the middle of summer too. So they clipped all of their trees, so there was no more shade for the actors to stand under while they were striking, right? And it was fucking hot. It was like 90 degrees, and now they don't have shade or anything, so now they have to stand in the blaring sun.
That's complete
right?
psychological warfare tactics. Holy shit.
And guess what? Get this. It was illegal for them to do that because they clipped the trees without approval, right? But the problem is they got, you want to know what the fine was that they ended up getting? $500. Fucking billion-dollar studios got a $500 fine. So in other words, they basically got away scot-free for doing that absolute evil shit. Right? Because again, when the punishment for a crime is a fine, it's only a crime for the poor.
Well, for an example...
Anyway, I just rambled for like fucking 10 minutes, and now I'm gonna let you guys talk.
Okay, here's a funny scenario. So if you, as a citizen, your taxpayer dollars are not going towards filling potholes, and you decided to plant, like redwood, like the big redwood trees in the Northern California forest. If you decided to plant redwood, it's federally illegal to cut it down. All right, if there's a tree growing.
Absolutely.
If you decided to plant a bunch of those in potholes, and the city decided to come along and cut it, or anybody decided to come down and cut it, it would just come out to fine for them. But if you, as an individual civilian, came out and just cut it, you could face fucking jail time, like 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
It's insane how our laws are completely two-tier.
One-sided.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's a two-tiered justice system. For the upper class, there's a completely different tier of justice.
Well, it's the old saying, if you have money,
class.
Nothing's illegal.
Because the thing is like rich people, they commit crimes all the fucking time. But the problem is that they can just look at us and be like, what are you gonna do about it? Right? Because at the end of the day, there's nothing we can do about it unless we can scrounge up the funds for a class action lawsuit, or because it's always a lawsuit, right? The thing is the police, they don't exist to enforce the law for everyone. They exist to enforce the law against poor people, and that's it. Because you call the police about any kind of white collar crime, and they don't give a fuck. It's not their problem. But you call the police about this guy stealing a $4 candy bar from a convenience store, they're there. They're there in a minute. And it's just, well, and you go to big cities and the police don't give a fuck about anything you tell them about. They just do whatever they want.
Well, it's the problem.
That's its own problem, but like,
police specifically, it has to do with the feds not enforcing shit. And that trickles down to the local communities, the local cops, local sheriff's departments, because the feds are supposed to keep the locals in check, but the feds just make shit up as they go, and they don't even keep themselves in check. So police are just unnecessary. Like at this point, it's like might as well just
you're absolutely right. The police, it's because it comes down to like the concept of police in general, right? Like police are not like, I don't exactly know how to word this. They're
basically a posse that is given a badge.
They're basically a gang. That's what they are.
They're given authority, and with that authority, there's like, you choose what and what not to prosecute.
Exactly.
It's like you could give a kid a slap on the wrist for smoking a cigarette, or you can take him to jail and give him something on his record and ruin his fucking academic career.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the decision between which kid gets what treatment, it comes basically entirely down to race, and it still does even to this day, right? Yeah, you catch a white kid for minor in possession, and you basically let him off on a warning. You catch a black kid for minor in possession, yeah, no, they're getting we're throwing the book at him. And
well, it's even more extreme than
way.
that. I mean, back to the 1800s, it's like you catch a guy for cattle wrestling. Well, you got one deputized guy on board of the posse. You can just lynch the fucker.
Yeah, well, yeah. I
for
mean,
stealing a cow.
That was never legal, but yeah, people still did that because.
No, it was legal. It was legality. Legal. It was legal.
Oh, actually? Oh yeah. What the fuck am I saying? Yeah, that was legal.
Wrestling. And even to
yeah,
this
what the fuck am I saying? Of course that shit was legal. What the hell?
Cattle.
I don't know why I said that shit wasn't. No, yeah, you're right. I don't know.
Every cattle death is actually investigated by the FBI. Did you know that?
Cattle?
Yeah, cattle. Like, specifically, like, if there's, like, a random, like, not like a cow being eaten by a coyote, but, like, you have a cow stolen, or there's a cow that just, like, has the weirdest death ever, like X-Files type of shit, the FBI investigates it. It's under their jurisdiction.
What?
Yeah,
you
that's
fucking...
an actual fact.
Dude, listen, we're fucking... I get a little drop of alcohol in me, and all I can talk about is politics. Can you imagine this shit?
What's your 2 cents in politics? We haven't heard from you yet. Give us your little...
actually, Matt, are you communist yet? Have I convinced you yet?
What the hell are we talking about again specifically?
Fuck.
Well, we were talking about police.
Fuck the rich. Yeah,
okay.
That's a pretty simple concept to get behind.
Okay, fuck the rich. Okay, we all agree on that.
Okay, we suck. We agree on that.
Yeah, but what's the? How do we change it?
Well, obviously we got to band
socialism
together as a large number of.
But then we have to decide what's going to replace the police.
Socialism.
No, the police.
See, the problem is
what's going to replace the police? Okay, well, it would be really nice in theory to have it such that there's no police, but obviously you're gonna have to have some sort of investigative institution that's able to investigate crimes.
Well, the problem is
or
that
able to you need to have some sort of truth. You need to have some sort of truth discovering institution out there that is able to that has like the sort of jurisdiction to be able to look into things.
The
right?
HR of society.
I wouldn't really. That would be the most dystopian thing I could imagine, probably. But
societal HR.
No, it's like
essentially
with the Chinese
at
with
the
their
in practice, it would be basically like a very tiny police force.
Well,
but
so what the Chinese have right now
is
a social credit score. That's the closest we're ever going to get to like a perfect society that holds everybody accountable. But even then,
we have
everybody accountable. That's just the people fearing the fucking tyrannical government.
We have basically the same thing here.
We do have a social credit score. We do it though voluntarily through social media.
No, we have an involuntary credit scoring system as well. It's just not a social credit score, it's a credit score. But because we live in a capitalistic society, a credit score...
True. And that's even worse for poor people.
Since both, if you think about it this way, okay, so the social credit score, so the Chinese social credit score is used to determine people's ability to access economic resources based on the scoring system, right? Guess what? We have the exact same thing. Since we are in a debt-based economy, and we have a credit scoring system, the credit score impacts our ability to access economic resources. The only difference is the credit score is run by these random corporations. The credit score in the US is run by these random corporations, and we don't really know, nobody really knows what exactly impacts it. We can guess at it pretty well, but nobody really knows what exactly impacts it.
And there's only three major corporations where you can actually get your credit score.
Yeah, exactly. There's only 3. Like,
and this
can you
shit
think
was
about
made
the
up,
amount of
what the credit score
Can
was
you
made
think
up
about
in
the amount of
70s,
power that
no?
those, like, that's contained within those tiny amount of
Okay, so
those tiny
we fell off the
like,
gold
those-
standard in the 70s, and then the credit score is made up, I think, the late 80s or the early 90s.
But the difference is, in Chinese society, there is a slight difference, which their social credit score, so both social credit scores are used to determine one's ability to access economic resources. Since we have a debt-based economy and our credit score determines our ability to access debt, it basically is the exact same thing. It impacts our ability to access resources like housing, like transportation, like things like that. Whereas in the Chinese society, it's basically exactly the same, right? But the difference is that theirs is more based on how good of a citizen you are and like how good of how helpful you are to the community.
In the eyes of the regime, not of the community itself.
Yeah, exactly. In the eyes of the regime. Whereas in U.S. society, the credit score basically is just a determinant of how good you are at
having a job and being a productive member of society.
Well, not really. It's more so how good you are at making money for rich people, and that's basically it. So there's a small difference, but they're basically the same thing, right? Both of them are essentially a measure of your ability to make money for rich people, and both of them impact your ability to access relatively the same amount of economic resources. And this is all obviously going to be in video. I don't know, are you playing the game?
Fuck, well, I'm really close to getting the thing I need.
Don't you have the boss key and you went to the boss key room?
No, but I need to get the boss, or the item in the big chest, which also requires the key, which I have now. Fuck you! Why does it keep closing?
If you look at it, if you look at it and really think critically about the differences between Chinese and American society, you'll notice that Chinese and American societies are both basically exactly the same.
No, they're pretty
similar. In terms of how,
except the
both
Chinese
in terms
are
of how, like,
racist.
both in terms of how authoritarian they are, and in terms of how, and in terms of like, yeah, like the oppressiveness of their regimes, they're both very similar.
Well,
like,
they are the two major
I guarantee
powers.
if
you got the Western and the Eastern,
as
and the population densities are completely the opposite. Chinese have billions.
Interesting.
Here we have like 300
Yeah.
odd some million.
And the interesting thing is that China's GDP has actually surpassed the US.
Yes, it has, and that's why their currency is going to go with that. What the hell they call it? With the Russians,
The BRICS?
Indians,
The BRICS?
Yeah, the BRICS currency. That's going to overtake the U.S. dollar, and this country is going to have
thing is
major
that, like,
depression that it can't recover from.
their GDP has technically surpassed ours, but only in terms of real GDP. So in terms of so there's a difference between real and nominal in economics. So real, like any value that's considered real adjusts for inflation, and it adjusts for the differences in prices where you're living, right? Versus nominal is just the straight up value. It's just the dollar amount, right? So the real GDP of China surpassed the US's GDP a long time ago, meaning that if you account for the fact that things are generally much cheaper in China, their GDP is much higher than ours. Now their GDP per capita, as in per person in their country, is still lower, but they're still growing at a faster rate than ours, so they're likely to surpass us eventually in terms of GDP per capita. Which honestly, I hope they do, because they have so many people, and a high GDP per capita just means that those people are living well, and I do hope that the people of China are living well.
I hope the same all around the world, but I disagree with the Chinese regime. Okay, besides that.
Yeah, but the Chinese regime is, if anything, it's actually less authoritarian than the U.S. regime. So if you think about the lived experience of Chinese people,
you can tell that in their infrastructure with their fake fucking concrete.
If you think about it in terms of like the lived experience of the Chinese people, sure, the Chinese communist government has it is essentially the same in terms of surveillance as the U.S.
The U.S. is more extreme, but because we are on a smaller scale,
the U.S. is definitely more extreme in terms of surveillance.
But we have less people on the Chinese end. They have like 3 billion, and so they have a way more bigger mass surveillance. But there's no. If you look at both China's and the U.S.'s actions abroad, the U.S. is by far significantly more authoritarian than China. Like China barely does anything abroad except for like occasionally they'll give very, very generous loans to struggling countries, but other than that, they really don't do much at all. Versus the U.S. is constantly waging wars all over the place. Mostly
and of course
wars.
we know that the U.S. is doing this, is waging these wars to maintain its own supremacy, to support its own hegemony over the world.
You are right.
Versus China isn't doing anything like that at all. They don't have soldiers in any other country except for their own, which is wild. So, in terms of authoritarianism, the U.S. is significantly worse than China. China is by all accounts a much freer and more generous society and government than the U.S. So, to be honest, of course I wouldn't still live in China. If somebody were to ask me on a quiz, who's more evil, the U.S. or China, I would say the U.S. every single time. Because it's just true, the U.S. is more evil than China.
Based off of what? What do you describe as evil? The amount of people killed? Or?
Based off of the U.S.'s track record, based on their history of absolute evil atrocities abroad, and based on there's still the atrocities that the U.S. is still committing.
Here's the problem I have with that. So we're equivalating the U.S. to have complete to be the complete culprit of all atrocities. But right now, all atrocities are basically 1 or 3 cartels. Well, actually, and realistically, it's one of 12 main cartels that are basically the criminals of the globe and that have political power and to wish to have one world government. Included in that is China and the U.S. But you can't just blame the U.S. or China for either one of those. It's actually the actual cartels. And that's where you get off on it. Economics would be so fucked up if these cartels were put in their place.
I got the mirror shield.
Nice. Oh, that's sick. We're all decked out now. We need to get the do we have like the fully upgraded tunic though? I don't think we do.
No, that's the red one.
The red tunic? Yeah, we need to get the red tunic. That's what we're missing. All we're missing now is the red tunic. Everything else is fully upgraded, I think.
I think that's...
Maybe not.
It must be after. I don't know. Well, we got the new sword. We got the new everything.
We got the new sword, the new shield. We just need the new tunic.
Oop, and not to die.
Okay, even if you are like... Even if your assertion is correct that there are supposedly cartels, that we do not know. These cartels that I do have to say that we don't know about.
Well, like, do you know the actual dollar amount? Like, how human trafficking is the largest profit for cartels?
But I'm not okay. But here's the thing: I'm not talking about all atrocities ever. I'm just talking about the atrocities which we can specifically attribute to the United States, right?
To the United States as the citizens, or the United States as politicians?
Government.
That have
the United States government.
The United States.
Yeah, the United States. The United States government
is what I'm saying, and it's no longer the fact that the political system or the original intent of the political system or the economic system isn't working. It's the fact that it's completely been taken over in the West and part of the East. China not so much, because they're still just authoritarians at the end of the day.
Well, it's not just that. It's all of the all of the bombings and the wars and the drone strikes and the chemical warfare. And not only that, but just think about, like, you need to go and, like, read, I'm sure you've read, like, all of the declassified CIA documents.
No, I know. Okay, America has committed a shit ton of atrocities, and I talk about that a lot.
All the evil shit that the U.S. has done inside of its own borders to its own citizens. Like, MK Ultra is not even the worst of it,
dude. MK Ultra,
and these things are declassified from the CIA themselves. Like, they're not even conspiracy theories anymore. Like, before, you used to hear people say this type of shit. Like, you'd hear somebody say this type of shit, and it's like, oh, it's all tinfoil hat. But it's not. It's all, these are official government documents. They're declassified by the official U.S. government. You can go on the CIA.gov website and read about this shit. And they do this within their own borders, to their own citizens. Like Operation Sea Spray, where they've literally misted some uncurable pathogen over San Francisco just to see how they would react. That is a real thing that they did.
Yeah. Dude,
that's
JD,
insane.
You could be a host on InfoWars. I'm just telling you right now, like, I don't disagree with you one bit about how evil the American elite is, or the American...
You should consider reading the Communist Manifesto. It's only 100 pages. Even if you disagree with it, it still would be good to learn, because then you can learn about... You can disprove what's wrong about it, right?
Okay,
it's still be good for you to read.
That. By reading it, it's not a sin, and you learn from it. I agree with that. You should, like, read the enemy's plans or whatever. If I disagree with it, I should read it. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I mean, if anything, you sound like Alex Jones, but to most people, they just don't believe the amount of shit America has actually fucking done. Like, it's insane, and it's like, okay, this is out in the open. Imagine what the communists are hiding of what they've done. Like, go back to, like, World War II.
Okay.
We still talk about estimates of bodies that were, like, killed. Like, we will never know the amount of people that actually died or suffered in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, basically what I'm saying is that until there's an actual government organization that can hold accountable all the people responsible for these atrocities, which is some of these main families that are part of the cartels, that have been in control of a lot of society for the past 400 years mainly, we won't have a resolution, and people will suffer. It's not about capitalism versus communism. I'm sure China and America could get along great, but it's the fact of the criminal organizations that have taken over our politicians and everybody in between. The scale of it is so insane that people don't understand that this cannot be resolved within one generation.
So, yeah.
500 years to resolve.
So I don't know. I don't know about
500 years.
Yeah. I mean, actual history, yes. It could take up to 500 years to weed out all corruption if you were doing it under an actual...
I don't know about this, like, criminal organization.
Well, so it sounds like conspiracy
I will
theorists,
say that, like,
basically comes down to, you call it conspiracies, but it's groups of people, individuals, that are allowed to do what they want to do by their government, and they're never held accountable for the crime. And that goes back to the government that allowed it.
The thing is that the things that they're doing, they're not even criminal technically by the law. Right?
Yeah, they're written into the law because they're written into law by the criminals that are supporting it to cover their own ass and their own agenda. It'd be like a
exactly.
It'd be like a dictator writing into law. Okay, like Hitler. Like, okay, now it's allowed to kill the Jews. Like,
what you're talking about. What you're talking about really is just the capitalist class in general, which the capitalist class refers to all of the
I'm
rich,
talking about
like,
the elitist
business
class, the people that have multiple.
It's the elite class,
the
exactly.
So it's not one country they support. It's just run the globe.
You're right. It is the global elite class. You're right. This is a thing that Marx specifically. This is an idea. This is an idea that Marx specifically, like this concept was created by Marx, which is why I think you should watch Marx. Okay, we got the ice rod. How'd we get that?
All right, see you later.
You don't exist, but I'm not real. So
look, we're at the boss finally.
I don't know which is worse. Are we finally at the boss?
Well, look, it looks like it.
And we're here. Okay, so you guys got to miss out on all of that fucking fun-ass escapade that we went on. We had to go get the ice rod, which you saw us get the ice rod, and then get all the way back here. So this is once again another advantage of watching a Let's Play instead of actually playing the game. You just get to watch the fun parts and miss all the tedious bullshit. So we had another like hour-long intermission because of course we ran out of recording space, and James is no longer here to occasionally interject because he left, and I decided to go on a little bit of a trip, a little side quest. Yeah, I think you're supposed to use the fire rod on that little bastard.
No, it's the ice rod. I just keep fucking missing. And I keep dying.
Oh, well, you got it once. You got it. I wanted to go to a liquor store because I was craving some good old craft lager, but I went to the wrong one to begin with, which was way too far away, and then I jogged to another one which was much closer, but their hours are completely fucked. According to what they are online, they are supposed to be up until 2 a.m., but actually, they close at 11, which sucks for me. And I already drank, so I can't drive there, and I don't want to fucking pay for an Uber, so I'm just dealing with what we have here, which is this, which you can't see. I might be crazy, but I think you could probably just hit him with your sword.
No, that's not what the thing said. It said, get hit and die.
It's okay if we can cheat. We can just cheat.
I do have a fairy, though, so I could just get hit and have a bunch of health, but...
That would probably be better, because then we wouldn't have to listen to incessant...
Uh-oh, I won anyway.
Wow, nice. You definitely didn't cheat.
Woo!
You definitely didn't cheat on that one. Oh, man.
The last girl, besides Zelda.
We got the last crystal girl. The last crystal girl, do you think this one one's a Gemini?
No.
Do you think this one reads tarot?
Tarot cards?
She's a crystal girl.
I appreciate you coming so far to rescue me.
We gotta say it at the same time. I thought they were...
You are the legendary hero.
I have felt this from
I have felt this from the first time we met.
Ganon is waiting
inside of his tower to pass through the gate, linking the two worlds.
Once Ganon enters the light world, it is unlikely anyone can stop him. But if he stays in the close space of the world, you can find him whenever he runs. Now go to the Tower of Ganon. We will use our combined powers to break the barrier. Let's return peace to this country without fail. Dot, 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 dot. No.
Do you understand? Don't fucking... May the way of the
Triforce lead the Triforce. We defeated the last guy. We can go kill Ganon.
Alright, so we have finally freed the last Crystal Girl and defeated the last of the 7 bosses in the Dark World or whatever. In the next episode, we will be preparing to challenge Ganon and his temple. That includes collecting the red tunic and maybe getting some heart pieces.
Is the tunic in?
But until then,
we'll figure out tomorrow.
We will see you in the Matrix. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and remember to hit the bell notification button. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we obviously gotta get the red tunic.
Is the red tunic in the dungeon, or is it somewhere else?
We're gonna have to figure that out before we record.